Hello and welcome to our final member meetup for Slow Flowers community, final meetup of 2021. Honestly, I don't even know why I keep a calendar. It just whooshes by so quickly. But more on that later. I want to welcome you all to our very special conversation with our special guest, Holly Heider Chapple. And before we get started, I just have a few announcements to make and, just a few housekeeping things. First of all, Nisha Blancas, our social media manager, is taking names and starting a list of names that will be in our drawing for our giveaways. So everybody, we've already asked you if you don't mind changing your name on your participant title to your either first and last name and or your business so we can identify you. And you'll be included in the drawing for several awesome giveaways that we're going to do. We'll draw after the meeting and let everyone know next week. Anything else, Nisha, on that?
No, if you are not able to change your name under your participant column, then you can just comment in the little chat your business name.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Nisha. Okay, thank you to everyone who completed our member survey in which ended December 3rd. We had over 100 responses, which is great. There is a drawing for 2 prizes from the people who participated and gave us their name and information. So we'll announce that soon. One of the prizes is a free annual membership at the premium level in Slow Flowers Society, which is valued at $249. And the other is really hot. It's the farm to table dinner at Blue Hill Restaurant during the Slow Flowers Summit. You obviously have to come to the summit to enjoy it, or you can give it away, but the winner is going to enjoy that, and the value is $350. And that dinner is June 27th of 2022 at Stone Barn Center and Blue Hill Restaurant. So that's pretty awesome. And speaking of the summit, I just want to let you all know, if you're not aware of it, our ticket sales are open. This is the month that you can register for the Slow Flower Summit and enjoy the very best ticket pricing until December 31st. You can save $100 before December 31st. Our whole itinerary is here on the homepage. I encourage you to think about coming. We're very excited. I love it when 2 of the speakers from 2021 have already bought tickets to come to 2022. That's kind of a nice endorsement. And one is Sue McCleary and the other is Molly Culver. So I thought it was really touching that they want to support our next summit. All right. I talked about how fast the year went. And it was about a year ago, maybe more like 14 months ago, that Holly and I started talking about, would we do a book together? Would she realize a long time dream?
Longer than that ago, Deborah.
Okay. Well, you tell it your way. When did we start talking about Holly's book?
I actually don't know when it officially was real. But I remember, and this one, I remember a flower stock having Deborah there, and people had been asking me to do a book, and I knew it would never ever happen without someone like you. And I came to you, kind of like slinked into the tenant house and said, Deborah, would you ever help me write a book? Because I wasn't going to do it solo there. I had no interest also, true to form, with people that don't matter to me. Like I'm used to having an army of colleagues and friends by my side. And that's why I'm not afraid to do things, because I have amazing people.
First talked about that. I didn't have a publishing company. Pardon?
You didn't build a business yet.
Right. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds like the hardest thing I can imagine. So maybe not. And so then, fast forward to 2020, I guess. And my dear friend, Robin Avni, and I did decide to start a publishing company called Bloom Imprint. And I said to Robin, I think we should approach Holly. I know she's interested in doing a book, and Robin loves your work, Holly, and was familiar with your work. So it happened. So And Robin's on the call today, so we might ask her to comment if we need some insights from her. But here's the beautiful book, A Life in Flowers. And I will just say that the tagline, lessons and affirmations from the garden, really came out of some Holly's own mouth. I mean, when we were talking about this book, Holly, you would talk about things in your life that you would end with, and that was a real affirmation. Like, this happens to you so often.
And I mean, that's really, and I say this all the time, this is what propels us forward. And what, chapel designers would also say, we're growing organically. And so, yes, I would get affirmation or acknowledgement from the universe. The right people magically show up. And, like I said, stand by my side, and things propel forward, and we know that we're on the right path. And so, yeah, what was so wonderful about this is that, this isn't a very nice way of saying it, but my son calls it word vomit. I just dump all of this. It's all spinning around inside of me, and it's a part of my heart and my soul. And you were capturing like the bits and pieces that were so much a part of our story. Meanwhile, Robin, the super sleuth, was going back through all of the blog posts from the past and finding things that I had shared on Instagram. And I'd be like, did I really say that? That's like amazing. Okay, that's great. Let that be a part of the book. So that's the way it all kind of evolved.
Yeah, you know what? That's a really good example to tell people, like, if you're interested in trying to tell your story, there are all kinds of resources that you can pull from. We had you looking in family archives. We were going back and reading like the first blog you wrote back when you were an early blogger a decade ago. There's just, so much that we had already expressed and shared that really became a really nice, component of this book. So Robin created this beautiful deck, Holly, and I thought we would just go through it and talk a little bit about some of the groovy things that are in this book. You want to just talk about this photo and where it was taken?
This photo is the cover of the book because Robin said so. This is on the lane at Hope. And this really was the first time that I intentionally had a, headshot photo shoot of myself. And this was just a playful moment in between. This young lady is a local photographer who's she somehow managed to make me feel very comfortable. I would not have chosen this, but I don't like to see myself on the front. And Deborah was laughing at me like, you do realize like you have to be on the cover of the book. It's your book. And I was just like, no, I thought it would be a compote or something. But Robin found this in the archives of the Holly Chapel Dropbox. And it was her vision to put this here. And while it's hard for me, everyone is telling me how much they love it and that it resonates the joy and embodies the whole title of the book. And of course, I do love, again, how it's sort of affirming the pines are there. And that's how we started marketing the book. And, it worked. It's perfect.
Yeah, I love it. For a long time, we did have a photo in mind, but it was inside the barn. And, when you look at the contrast of sort of the moodiness and the darker kind of enclosure of the barn, which is beautiful, but this is light, and I think your heart is really coming across here as the lightness.
And I think the other image is a little bit more somber, and damn, I'm really glad, considering the years we've had, that it is light and not so somber. We don't need any more of that. So.
Seriously. And we really had your mantra as an inspiration too. The first time I met you and I had you on the Slow Flowers podcast back in, I want to say like 2014, you talked about this motto of yours. So it's not something you just made up. It's always kind of been you would utter this when you were having challenges, right? Like,
right. And it's also how I lead in the studio when we're designing. I always begin a flower buy or a wedding consultation thinking about who's in bloom, and what resources, what special jewels do I have in my pocket that no one else has? Because of course I started in the industry before, before there was a Deborah Prinzing and a slow flower movement, and there were all of these wonderful local flower farmers. I was just calling up my friends, the people the flowers that I knew that I could count on to take events to the next level. And so whenever we're struggling in the studio and things don't look on to brand or Hollyish, as we say, I always, say the answer is always in the garden. We can always fix and pull something from the garden, and the contracts always begin from the garden as well.
Mm. So, we had, as you said, you talked about the Holly Chapel Dropbox archives. I mean, honestly, it was like getting the key to a city, because you didn't even know maybe you knew what you had. We were marveling at the quantity of beautiful images that were just.
I don't know how Robin found them all. I mean, it's so many, and they're sorted within, themes under. I mean, Hope has its own Dropbox, and within that is photo shoots and brand shoots and conferences, and Chapel Designers has its own, and then Holly Chapple Flowers has one that has sympathy and weddings and photo shoots. I don't know how Robin found her way through there. I get overwhelmed when I go in the Dropbox. I do kind of know where things are. I don't know how. I didn't want to give the key to the city to her, but
you didn't. It took a while for her to earn your trust. And
it wasn't that. I just thought she would be overwhelmed, as any other human being is when they go in that place.
Yeah.
But, the other thing that happened, which I don't know that a lot of people really will ever realize, is that, we started this and no one in my industry was producing. It wasn't in wedding and event season. And then this got really live and really hot. And all of a sudden we're back into production with weddings, and I can't be digging in the Dropbox. So he was given to Robin, and somehow she found her way through it.
Well, we really liked these themes that, and you'll see on the chapters here, the way we organized it. So Holly's journey is sort of her personal story and her family story and her influences. A creative practice, it really talks about Holly's aesthetic and how I liked some of the features, and we'll go down through this in a minute. So I'll hold my comments, but I liked getting in your brain and like, how do you create? Inspired gatherings, very much about weddings primarily. We have, I think, over 18 real life weddings that came out of the Holly Heider Chapple Flowers studio. And then Finding Hope is the story of Hope Farm and Flower Stock. So I'll let you stop here and talk about who you dedicated the book to.
This was really hard to even begin to do. Obviously, with any marriage and a big family, we want to go back to our family, but this year was even more poignant. If you follow us on social media, our family is dealing with Evan having cancer. And so I also do think that this was one of those things that I had posted when I was dealing with this privately and had not shared yet on social media. Some of this post is an Instagram post I made that Robin caught.
Yeah.
and it was geared towards Evan, and it was the beginning of accepting where we were at.
Mm.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm going to read it in case people can't see it on the screen. You wrote, "Each design I create is joyful and cathartic, and each extraordinary stem I touch is in honor of Evan. He is the driving force for so much of the beauty I create." And I'm going to tear up too, Holly. It's quite beautiful. And this photo of you guys. It's just,
this was in 2020.
It's charming.
Well, this is the same young lady who photographed the cover. And and we had time, we had bandwidth in 2020 to do family photos,
Yeah.
family photos, and to do, this was, these were corporate headshots. This was everyone in the company was photographed that day.
That's
And,
that's
yeah,
kind of
thank God
an out. It's almost like an outtake. You guys were goofing around or something,
right.
right?
Yeah. Thank God for the imagery. But, 2020 really allowed us the opportunity to, work on the farm and build out those blooms. And, everything about that statement is 100%
Mm,
true, because it's those stems from the garden that make everything so spectacular.
And then, as I said, we talked about your journey. We have this miraculously this wonderful photo with you and Evan, all your children, of course, your daughter-in-law and your mother. And this was from your presentation on the main stage at AIFD in, was it 2018? I think, right?
I think so. And also really just a classic picture. Thank God we have this, because this is I think this is the last photo of my whole family together with my mom,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
That's
And
neat.
this was a very poignant and important day, obviously.
Yep. And then we'll jump to the creative practice. As I said, this was perhaps my favorite chapter because we talked a lot, and I loved talking with you to kind of hear your articulation of what is your creative process and what inspires you to produce such beautiful installations. So this was from you teaching at Flower Stock, I think, this image.
So this is Santa Barbara Floral Abundance Days, the Floral Abundance Design Days. But obviously, because you're such a skilled writer and you teach, creative writing and practices, you were able to extract and pull from me, the heart and the matter of my whole philosophy. What is the most important parts of this story?
Well, and sometimes we'd be on the phone and I'd be like, okay, now walk me through this. And you'd be like, I have 10 minutes left, Deborah. You were being pulled.
I remember doing that.
You're pulled in so many directions. So I'm grateful for your all the time and hours we spent working on this text together.
Now these I love, because I also photographed these. These were cathartic and amazing prior to the return of weddings and Evan, his diagnosis. We had created in the barn a space where I photograph. I bought a really nice camera, and I had all this time to create for creation's sake. These were for no one. And they were showing the beauty of the flowers that we had at the farm, or even gifts from the children or Alexandra Farms. And not only did I design them all, I got to photograph them too. So I loved all of these pieces, and I loved this practice. It was one of the healthiest things I did for myself in all my years of business, but it was really wonderful to have the bandwidth in 2020 allowed that for me, and some of 2021.
Yeah. And it was really nice to have these new original arrangements to feature. There are 4 pages of Holly's arrangements photographed like this, and they really tell a story of the seasons too.
Right.
And a lot of what you grow as well. We also talked a lot about your innovative work with product development, and we're one of the giveaways today is going to be a special Holly package of her products. So we wanted to have this in here, just a little bit of a nod to how, again, back to your affirmations, how these things evolve.
Not always easy, right?
Yeah, you didn't set out to be a product designer, but it happened.
Well, I mean, sometimes some of this stuff comes from a lot of pain. I mean, this whole product line, it came from a push that was so painful that made me contact Syndicate to make it, to make it happen. And sometimes those are the things that really push us forward. The whole Syndicate thing is a miracle. It really is. And also just an indication that what's meant to be is meant to be, and it'll happen. I still can't quite believe it. these are some of my favorites. These are chapel designers and educators for chapel designers. And this was an event in New York. This was an incredible conference in New York City. And of course, very important to me in this community is one of my most, the most treasured to me of all the things, I think, and so impactful in the industry. Chapel designers brought so many people together and really connected many different facets of the industry. And we weren't able to go to New York and have our 10-year anniversary. This was really important to get this content in here. And
tell the story of how Chapel Designers was birthed and grew.
Yes. And the other thing that is happening behind the scenes, and maybe we shouldn't share this, but I'm going to, like, we had trouble, sometimes when you produce a book, usually when you produce a book, you contact a photographer and you create all this content. Deborah and Robin had a grueling task to get permission from all of these different conferences, photo shoots, weddings, and quite frankly, some things that we really wanted to be a part of the book could not be because we did not have a willing photographer.
Yeah.
So we are so blessed that we were able to get, an aspect of all of the important things of my life in here.
Yeah. I think in the end, there were something like 40 photographers who granted us permission to use their images.
And that's just not normal.
No.
Normally there's one or two photographers.
Right. It was a workout.
It was a daunting task.
Yeah. We had this just small spread on installations because there's some things that you kind of say yes to that are sort of a single event. And we wanted to showcase that. Of course, the iconic heart on the mall, we absolutely had to fit in there. Then we talked about ideations and your urge to create, like you said about the arrangements earlier, the urge to just do something with flowers if the time allows. I thought this is one of my favorite spreads with the little bunny in it.
That bunny is in my living room right now. This one was really important too, because this was a very big undertaking to do in my own yard. And it was one of the first times that we did a massive installation with chicken wire or sausages, but this became a really important part of the mechanics that we as chapel designers use. You can't see it in the picture to the left, but to the right, there were tubes of chicken wire that were at the kind of stapled to the back of the wall, and they came out and off the wall. And it just gave me the opportunity to create a design that was more dimensional than the standard floral wall. And this was also well before the flower wall was a big deal.
Yeah. Isn't the sort of shawl of flowers over the model's shoulders coming out of the wall?
It's a tube of wire, and she actually decided to go in it and under it. We had tent stakes holding the wire off the wall. And I would kind of like, it was almost like a ribbon. Like if you stapled it into the left corner of the wall and then it looped out, went back to the middle of the wall and then flew off the wall again. And from that, a lot of ideas about the use of chicken wire and how we could advance it kind of evolved. I think there was a lot of discussion about this piece when we did it.
I love it. Of course, we can't go through a conversation about a life in flowers without talking about your relationship with David Austin Roses. And this was a styled shoot they commissioned you to do at the Manor House at Hope Farm, right?
That's correct. This was a brand shoot that we were hired for. And, they were spearheading the look and the vibe. They created a mood board, and then, you know, we were able to go about. They told us what roses we would be using. It was wonderful to be able to produce it at Hope. And this is also the same photographer who did the red heart on the Capitol Mall. So I love this so much. David Austin and the brand is very, very important to me. These are also grown by Alexander Farms, which is, you know, he is an important part of my story. David Austin is, you know, it starts a long time ago. I'm in the Washington Post, quoted as saying, some girls want to meet Brad Pitt. And, you know, my lifelong dream is to meet David Austin. And while we were in London teaching, we had a representative from David Austin at the conference, and Evan went to her and they made a secret plan for me to go to David Austin, and I actually met him, and that continued that relationship.
That's
This
awesome.
is an honor to be able to do this.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to go through the rest of these a little bit quicker so that people can get their questions asked. If you have questions for Holly, please put them in the chat. Karen is compiling those and we will not leave you hanging. Let's talk about the weddings, Holly. And I mean, so much of your studio was reliant upon weddings and still is. And you have a relationship with these couples, and the planners, and, you know, and the venues. Like it's really an important part of your story.
Yes, and each one of these, they matter immensely. All of these couples, and you know, I could go on for hours, stories about each one of these weddings and the couples, or which chapel designers were there that helped me make it happen. This couple, you know, this is in Ireland. This couple here, they filmed my online course. This is the sister-in-law to the couple that filmed my online course. If it really, really matters to me, and then it's really, really beautiful, there's some deep connection and story behind it. I've just did her baby shower, this young lady's baby shower last weekend. She's adopted a baby. I've since done her sister's wedding. You know, these relationships are what really propel the company forward.
Yeah.
I love the weddings that are here. These boys are just adore them. They moved to Waterford, which is just a few miles away from Hope Flower Farm, because they loved coming to my house for consultations. And I call them my boys. I love them. They have an extraordinary garden. They're very much active in the world of gardening and what we're doing. And one of the grooms, his grandfather was a dahlia grower. So we featured dahlias in their wedding, and it's just, they're very dear to me.
Yeah. And that's back to you with the story and the detail.
Right. The wedding planner that designed this wedding is sitting in my living room right now and trying to help me make a plan for, you know, the future and business development. So all of these weddings are really, really precious.
I love it. Well, I mean, you could just study the wedding sort of visual education of these photos in the book. As I said, there's over 18 of them. And for each one, we highlighted some beautiful imagery and then also plucked out a little bit of what was meaningful about it. So thanks for giving us an insight to a couple of those. The final chapter is discovering hope. And this is really, you know, Holly, maybe before you and Evan bought Hope, the book wouldn't have been complete. I mean, you probably couldn't have done it earlier than this, because now you have this sort of bookend to a successful career.
Yes. And it really, I mean, the word, all of it, it is kind of like the icing to the cake, right? Like it all is connected and makes sense. I love this because this is Mr. and Mrs. Hope here. And they were still on the farm when we took it over. And at the very first workshop, which was a Gregor workshop, they actually got to come up and be photographed, and they witnessed how we would use the farm as we move forward with it. So
I love it.
One of the flower stock events, which is, you know, iconic, and you came to me. You're such a part of all of these events too. Like you said to me when I started Flower Stock, like you realize like you're like, this is the beginning of floral tourism, what you're doing here.
Yep.
And I actually just used that when I applied for a grant with the county just this week.
Love it.
Kind of we coined that phrase, the floral tourism, and Flower Stock really spoke of that type of event and what it was doing.
Oh yeah. I mean, you what you're doing with Hope Farm as a vehicle for just economic development and tourism in your area is a real model that everybody could be looking at.
It is. It's really interesting because when I was young, I used to sit on the board of tourism, and it was all about transient occupancy tax, TOTs, and heads in beds. And I used to think, how will I ever contribute to this as a florist? And here we are. And of course, that we've had guests from all over the world come to the farm. So it's really kind of cool.
I love that. Well, just a few more photos of Flower Stock. People have asked, somebody asked, I think Gina, maybe, when are in-person events going to resume at in a big way for either chapel designers or at Hope Farm? Did you do a hybrid for Flower Stock? No, nobody came. Right?
We did virtual. We did
Okay.
not do a hybrid for the last 2 years. Really this week, right now, we've been at the table. They're still sitting at the table right now, waiting for me. We are planning out the future. And I will go forward believing that events will happen next year. But I will always be prepared in a way I never was before. That
Right. You know how to do that online thing now if you have to, right?
Right. And so we are opening up April, I think April 2nd is the date. We have a real wedding that I am the event designer and stylist for, and we're going to make that a chapel designers event. So you can come in and do a real wedding with us. Gregor will be back in June. We're talking about making Flower Stock both in person and virtual, but this year maybe a flower competition so that there's designing in the fields. We have a lot. I mean, things have to be rebuilt and redone though. The tent company that did Flower Stock, which they were a really important part of this event, they were gone within the first 2 months of COVID. Their company was lost.
Yeah.
And so, things will have to change as we move forward, but we will come up with it. This is a Gregor workshop. And again, he will be back at the farm in June. And we were speaking today. We are moving forward with the belief that we will be together next year. We are planning and
Lovely.
Going forward.
Well, speaking of Gregor, we should mention that we asked 2 of Holly's influences and peers to write forwards. And so there's a beautiful one by Gregor and a beautiful one by Sue McCleary in the opening pages of the book. And there was a privilege to edit those and work on that with them. Really lovely. And, I think a tribute to you, Holly.
Thank you. There's Robbie. And that's my daughter, Grace, in the left corner, which a lot of people may not realize. I love that.
She's all grown up now, though. It's scary. And this is the concluding image that Robin selected, and she felt that it was so poignant and kind of brought you back to your original statement about the answer is in the garden.
Right.
This was a styled shoot you had done at Hope, right?
This was actually in the garden of the house we live in. And
Wow.
yeah, it was a fascinating day. I mean, everything about this, I have so many memories because I paired gold and plum together, and no one had ever done that before. And I remember my wedding, my flower wholesaler saying that she didn't think it was going to work. And I was like, I think it actually will. And the color palette this was a very long time ago, the shoot was.
I know, but we just thought it was it's so unique.
And Evan was a big part of the shoot and just everything about it. It really does tie up the theme and end it so beautifully.
Well, oh yeah, we have one other photo, I guess. I got myself out of order, but when we asked Holly to write acknowledgments, it was like its own chapter. And so
We had, I mean, yeah, it was very hard because there are so many more people that should have been added into this. And I really didn't want to do this for fear of, leaving someone out or hurting
Yeah.
someone.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
I
but
hope- I had to walk away from that because I could keep adding to that and adding to that and adding to that.
yeah, it's okay. And I so love this photo from Sarah Collier, and Sarah graciously let us use a lot of her imagery in the book, and this sort of superimposed floral spray or field over the manor house is just so
Yeah,
artistic.
that's really incredible. That image it was always one of my favorites. Again, Robin just somehow went through that folder, the folder of folders and folders and folders, and pulled the very most important images that really told the story.
Yeah. And we have Holly's book at the Bloom Imprint store, but Holly, you have it signed copies on your online shop, right?
Yes, at Hope Flower Farm.
Okay.
And then we're getting all this good news about all these other wonderful places it's going, which is kind of blowing my mind. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yes, it is. Well, you can go ahead and talk about that, and then we're going to open this up to some questions. I will also say we're giving away, Bloom Imprint is giving away 2 copies of A Life in Flowers for our drawings. Holly has a package of her goodies. And then I'm also going to mention something else, and that is our friends at Details. And Karina's here. So yay. Holly, you want to talk about what this is? There's 3 giveaways with your new templates.
Well, what this is the result of yet another wonderful relationship. So I am very, very careful about who I was going to say something, who you get in bed with, but like I'm in love with Details. This is the software that I use to create beautiful proposals, and how I really feel like I'm booking my clients, and we got to work with them on templates. And we have a new release of 3 new templates coming out. And I would say that I have updated, of course, and I'm using them now. And we are seeing great returns. I just did a proposal, and it's a obnoxious flower order. It's quite large. I wrote it $24,000 over budget, and she wrote us back in 5 minutes and signed it. I was like, oh, well, that's quite nice. I feel like that these proposals had a lot to do with it. So,
and well, that's what I was going to ask you. That's a tool that you use then, and just in your
right. So this software gives me a template, and in this template, I drag and drop all the recipe over, write the whole contract, the client signs off, but I'm able to store my recipes. So, what will happen, of course, is when something gets out on social media, someone will say to me, I want it just like this. And I'm able to go back through Details Flowers and just pull that recipe and drag it over and propagate. My wholesalers see a consolidated list of everything that I'm purchasing. If I have to substitute a flower because it's not available, I can easily send that document, update that document to say what the substitution is, so that the team can see that and they receive all of the recipes, and we produce based on that. That is my tool. That's it truthfully, in the very beginning, I have to say, when I moved to it, I couldn't wait to write a contract because it was so beautiful and so much fun. It is still work now, but at least for the first year, it was full throttle. This is just fun to make these pages. Now,
yeah, you get to play.
It's a little work. I don't like thinking of the words. I should have you here with me always, Deborah. But it's amazing.
Well, I will just say that I asked Corinne if someone doesn't have the software, if they won these, one of the templates, would that be useful? And she just emailed me back and said that they would be happy to gift a 1-month subscription to anyone who wins the template if they're not a subscriber. So you really can get in and play with it a little bit. So thank you, Details Flower Software, for that. That's great. So we'll do the drawing. We'll do the drawing this weekend and let everybody know next week who the winners are. I want to open it up to questions now. Hi, Gina. I'm glad you're on. She said, I'm really trying to be mindful of the environment. I love using the eggs and pillows. However, how can I recycle and repurpose the eggs and pillows if they are used in wedding work? Usually the bride keeps her bouquet and the eggs are thrown away and the guests take the centerpieces. How can I create some incentive to get those mechanics back?
Well, I always discuss that in consultation. And even with Details Flowers, it can show that those things they're an ingredient, an egg and a pillow. I tell my clients that there are mechanics that are involved in these centerpieces, which number one, first, I would like for them to keep them and buy flowers and learn how to design. But if not, I'm always willing to come back and get them. We had one wedding, Jason went to break it down. There were $350 centerpieces and he was trying to leave them for the mother. And she was like, I don't want the flowers. I just want the compote. And he said it was like ridiculous. Like they were all rooting through to get the mechanics.
Because you talked it up a little bit and
No, I think she just was paying attention on social media and she wanted to flower arrange. So I just think it's important to share with your customers that it isn't to go into the trash and that you'll take it back. Or more importantly, why don't you keep this and why don't you practice floral design and you can purchase flowers from us in the future. And in regards to the bridal bouquet, most of my customers keep their bridal bouquet and press it. So then I have a relationship with the person who presses flowers here. And if those things, she gives those things back to me.
Got it.
So
yeah.
It's just communication and education. It's really important.
Yeah. Lori Poliski says, going forward, would you like to focus more on doing weddings and events or more on education? And then she added, also, I'm one of 7 kids, so kudos to you for doing all that you do, raising a large family. Congratulations on the book. So yay for big families, right?
So I think the answer to that is it's not more in one direction or the other. We're going for balance. So in 2019, we were very careful about what clients we would take on in 2020, and we were trying to make margin time. Megan's here again, for what matters, and not be booked every single solitary weekend and have time for the education. So now we have, and you can even see it on the Holly Chapel website, we kind of interview the clients. I also had some very horrible experiences in 2019 where I did not have a relationship with a client. Therefore, I could not communicate with them, was never sure I was executing their wishes. And when I didn't have payment or when I needed to make really intense changes, I had no way of reaching them. So we set a plan in place where I must have a relationship with a client. I must be allowed to correspond with them and communicate with them, because that also gives me more work. Years ago when I was a floral designer, it was those relationships that brought me their best friend and their sisters and their baby showers. If I'm just executing for a wedding planner, then I don't develop a relationship with them. So we are doing the weddings that we want to do. And for the first time in our lives ever, Sydney, I have a team member who I really, really adore, and I don't want to lose her. I don't want her to work every single weekend because she's young and she's cool and she wants to have a life. And so we decided what weekends we will work next year. And we finally, after, slamming 21 and 20 into 6 months, we're back in charge of our life. We picked what weekends we're working, and then the other weekends are available for education and events at the farm. So We're just pretending we're not available. We're passing that work on to chapel designers the weekends that someone comes to us. We chose not to work on Father's Day and Mother's Day and to be available for our families.
Wow. Holly, that's amazing. And I think that if by drawing the line about the communications, then you're going to those planners who are afraid of not collaborating with you and controlling it all themselves they're just the planners you're not going to work with, then it sounds like.
Well, that's right. And so it's even positioned us to do a lot more event design where we're completely in charge of the event. And it really, it is. I know for certain that 2020 and 2021 were good experiences because we had hand selected the clients that we're working with.
Mm.
It's very
Yeah.
hard to have faith and not to be of the mindset of I need to take it all, I need to take it all, I need to take it all. It doesn't really work out very well in the long run, and particularly when you're, 30 years down the line and you should have been spending more time with your family. That's not a regret anybody wants to have, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Holly, next question from Melissa. How do you find a balance in what you grow on the farm versus what you bring in from other sources? Do you find brides have a preference of grown versus, purchased elsewhere?
I always start with what's available in the garden. And that is, really easy for me to do, again, with details, because we have a pocket that we pull from for Alexander Farms. We have a Hope Flower Farm pocket. And I know when I can, pull those flowers over from the farm. I'm a resource just like the wholesaler is. And I distribute the flowers from my farm first. I do have clients that, think they want balls of South American white hydrangea, and then I show them limelight hydrangea. And I am always selling our farm fresh flowers first. And again, that's part of picking my clients too. This is getting ahead of this. It's also something Shane Connolly taught me. When you're in charge of your company, you can sell designs that are sustainable and you can sell the flowers you want. And so most every single weekend, it is a huge amount of stem count from the farm. And then the roses are the one thing that we try, to bring in. And working with, if you're purchasing from abroad, do make sure that the farms are like green certified. So that's one of the things that I do to help with that.
Yeah, that's great.
And education. I mean, a lot of times people think they don't like zinnias until they see them designed beautifully, or there's a way to elevate and make everything look lush and beautiful, even if it is a farm flower.
Well, I'm waiting for you to announce that you're going to start growing a rose farm, Holly. You have the
No,
land.
I'm not, because roses do not do well here. And I am not going to set myself up for failure there. It's just not going to happen. I'd love for it to happen. If I thought they would grow, I would have been over it 10 years ago.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions here. I did want to just let my partner, Robin Omni, just come on and say a little bit. We've been talking about her and her obsession with photography and design and this book. Everyone's commenting on how beautiful the book is, Robin. So give us sort of your take on this amazing project.
Well, it was just an embarrassment of riches of great work to work with Holly. And, for Holly, she's like, how did I do that? For me, I was in heaven. I was in heaven digging through every wedding, every folder, every possibility that we could put in the book. It was just such a treat. I told Holly once that over last January, when we started the editing process, was feeling a little, glum. And I went in and I just looked at all her weddings and it cheered me up. So, the work is inspiring and beautiful. And we were very fortunate. I will say the reason the photographers agreed was because of their relationship with Holly. Often we get back, I'll do anything for Holly, whatever Holly wants. So it's because of those beautiful relationships that you built, Holly, that we had the opportunity to use all those wonderful photos.
That is a huge part of it, but also because I don't want people to think it's easier for Holly than it is for other people. There were also jerks who said no, right?
There were jerks, yeah. And you just keep
those
going.
are the people I shouldn't be working with in the future, right? Like this is how and there's another question in here that we maybe should get back to, but
yeah.
You've got to weigh and pick and measure who are the people in your life. again, Megan, the wedding planner in the other room, who's now one of my business coaches, she used to say, you've got to pick who you're going to go into battle with. And in particularly, as we move forward, collaboration is going to be the only way we are going to get through these events. So you have to have an army of support around you, people that you trust, growers and designers and tent makers and linen companies, because we're all going to be scrambling to pull it off.
Yeah.
And I would say that we feel the same way about publishing books, and that that's a collaborative process. And that's why we wanted to work with you on this, because of your philosophy around that.
Well,
I have to add in one funny story though. About halfway through my edit, Holly decided they really needed to organize the folders in the photo folders. She goes, Robin, we're going to go in and we're going to organize them. I'm like, no, don't touch them. I finally know where everything is. Don't organize it.
So she can do that now, right, Robin?
You can go do it now. But
yeah, we're going to start working on organizing things again. But
so thank you, Holly, for trusting us with your work.
I'm just really excited for the industry and for other floral designers and gardeners that they might have this opportunity to work with you. I can't imagine, nor would I ever want to do this any other way. I am so lucky that you all picked me. And my mom saying you stay at the dance with the person that brought you. I'm yours. Like, I am so thankful to you guys. It is, you did a beautiful job, and you created a new business and a new model for getting this out into the world. And I'm really, really lucky. I'm so happy to be a part of it. Someone did ask, do you have any wisdom to share about delegating, sharing the workload with your team? No, we're still trying to figure that out. We've spent a whole entire week trying to figure that out. I definitely think that it's important that you know the strengths and weaknesses of the people that you're working with. And there is a point when you have to cry uncle when someone is not able to pull off what is on their task list. And it is really important to work with professionals and to bring in people who are smarter than you are. I always say that, like, I don't need anybody else here that isn't smarter than me. Like, I need people who can teach me and help me be better at what I'm doing. And getting help is one of the most important things you can do to grow your business. And trying to do it all yourself, you just won't be able to grow. So that's really important.
Thank you. Okay, one last question from Kirsten from Bloom Magic, just because she's one of our loyal members who comes to all of our wonderful monthly meetups. She has a question just about styled shoot compensation.
Okay.
Do you have any philosophy on that? And then we'll wrap up.
What is there? So her question is, should I get compensation for it?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yay. I've been struggling to get in here. Technology demons today. So nice to see everyone. My question is, as I have been doing more styled shoot, more curated kinds of projects, and some people still want to kind of get together and say, let's do a thing about lemons. And I have a bowl and you have some lemons. Whereas someone else is in a situation that a company might approach and say, we're doing a new line of earthenware and we want you to help us style this with flowers. About how do you look at these different projects and price your work? Because I'm not doing the thing with the guy that wants to get together and do lemons and give me pictures at some unknown date in the future. I won't do that anymore because I know that people will pay me to do styled shoot work. I just don't know for sure how I like
just how does Holly ask for compensation is what you're asking for. Okay. Give us the short answer, Holly, and maybe
that's really hard. I think if there is if any of the other collaborators are being paid, or if someone's coming to you and directing you, as for David Austin, like I said, they had a clear list of what I needed to do for them, then I need to be paid for that. I will tell you that there are many times that I do shoots. I'm the director of them. I'm leading them. I want to do them. And so I don't compensate. I don't get compensation because it was my gig. And don't ever underestimate the worth of getting imagery from a quality photographer, and have it in clear writing that you get use of those images. Even with my relationships, Deborah, and we need to talk about that. We need to have some kind of contract that I have right of use of the images for the future.
Yes, Holly, that is a whole other campaign we're going to launch. And that is that I can't even go there yet, but it has to do with protecting the creative content the photographers take, but the floral artist should actually be equally acknowledged as the creator of that. So anyway, on that note, we'll put a pin in that and have another conversation, Holly. Maybe we've got to just find time to do that.
We could do a whole thing on shoots, and I
Yeah.
could help with that. And I would love to help with that, because there's,
Well, maybe Slow Flowers and Chapel designers can do one together.
oh, I love that idea of
yeah,
that.
let's
That would
plan
be
that.
really wonderful.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
We'll
that's
do
a good
we'll,
one.
we'll do that when, and hopefully, at a time when people have a little bit less craziness in their lives in the season. So Karen,
I
go
would
ahead.
also just like to ask, if you're not on my newsletter, to please join, because we're really trying to clean that up and make our messaging more clear with you guys. And we are teaching next week. It's only $29, and it's a virtual class for evergreens. So
Okay.
if anybody's interested in that.
And so they can just, where can they find it on your Instagram feed?
It's in the newsletter, the last link that went out.
Okay.
You can always write the studio or hit me
Okay.
up in DM, but
Great.
we did it intentionally really inexpensive so that we could play with a lot of people, and we tell you what to source from local growers or from your gardens. So it's kind of a fun
Excellent.
piece.
Oh, good. I might do that, Holly.
That'll be fun.
Karine is saying, if anyone is interested in getting started with details, you can use the Holly code for 20% discount after first year. I didn't know there was a Holly code. It's Holly 20.
That was very nice of you.
Details. And yeah, and Karen is asking us to remember, and before we wrap up, I'm going to announce this. The January Slow Flowers member meetup is January 14th, the second Friday in January, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and Robin Avni and I are going to present our Slow Flowers insights and forecast for 2022.
Ooh.
I'm really upping my game now because I'm partnering with Robin, who has an extensive career as a forecaster, ethnographer, and consumer trends. So that is going to be wicked great, to use my Boston phrase, wicked great. And I hope I see you joining and signing up for the Slow Flowers Summit. Karen and I are available. Our emails are on the Slow Flowers Summit website if you have any specific questions. And wow, it's just been a great hour. Holly, thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thank you for everything.
I hope that everybody gets a copy of A Life in Flowers under the tree, or in the stocking, or I don't know, Hanukkah's over, but we can pretend it's still going on, so that you can be inspired by this remarkable woman and her story. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, friends.
Bye, everybody.